Hello everybody and welcome to another stream of, well, me basically, Tabletop Junkie, bringing you guys some latest things today. I don't know about all that latest things but, well, we're here. This is what we call a virtual pizza parlor. This is where we're going to sit down and chill and talk about some great things. Today I called this stream Celebrations. What are we celebrating today? Well, today is September 8th, 2023. Oh, wouldn't you look at it? It's called Star Trek Day, which is why I got the insignia there. September 8th, 1966 came the very first pilot episode for the original series, which starred William Shatner as Captain James T. Kirk, Leonard Nimoy as Spock, DeForest Kelley as Leonard McCoy are the, main three well-known ones. Then you got James Doohan, which is Lieutenant Commander Montgomery Scott. And then you also have Nichelle Nichols, who was Lieutenant Uhura. And, of course, George Takei as Sulu. Majel Barrett as Nurse Christine Chapel. And Grace Lee Whitney as Janice Rand, the captain's yeoman. This, the very first episode, the Enterprise visited a planet known as Planet M113 for a routine medical examination of a husband and wife archaeological team stationed there. But the woman has been replaced by a shape-shifting creature, forced to survive by extracting the salt from the bodies of the members of the crew, and in a result to killing them. That was the very first one. I believe there was an actual pilot episode that premiered before that, but it did not have the I don't think it had the fans or like it didn't capture people's attention. So this one did, and I think they did use part of that pilot episode. Oh wait, that could have been an unaired pilot, coming to think of it. So because I know they reused that. How many HR complaints were filed against Sulu? Well, none, because in the future they have no HR. So the show was this is a story originally. This is a science fiction television series originally written by Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry, in my own personal opinion, and this is my own personal opinion, is a true visionary of the future. He envisioned a future where there was no discrimination, no segregation, and it didn't matter who, what, or what appendages you have, you were considered a person and a unique individual. That is what his show has always been based on. Many people would argue that with me. Well, I hate to say it, you can argue with me all day long, you can have your opinions about it, I don't give a rat's ass. That is what I took from the original series. That is what I took from every series. Today, people would argue that that Star Trek was not LGBTQ friendly. Okay, so it's 1966, people, and let me say this: did we have a whole lot of issues with that in 1966? Or did we not give a crap if two guys win at it? I mean, whatever. I'm going to say this. In the 17 to 1800s, and even in ancient times of Rome and Greek, it was not unheard of two guys going at it. And I'm going to get a little graphic here, and if you can, that's fine. This will be an 18 plus stream if I have to make it. But yes, it happened. Get over it. I don't care. Even New Trek? No, New Trek is complete crap. New Trek, I get it with New Trek, but here's the thing that I have, and you should be on here, Chris, with me, but no, you got to be in the audience. Like I don't know why. I just don't get it. Anyway, New Trek is a poor representation of, I don't know, I just did not click to me. I don't want to sit here and draw in may have not been unheard, but it wasn't expected. Yeah. The point is, it wasn't the big thing. Back in 1966, the biggest thing we had going on, if I'm not mistaken, let's see. Oh, you should have made food earlier, bud. All that Star Wars thing and not enough Star Trekking. There you go. Give me a second. I want to make sure I get this right. So in 1966, let's see. I want to know what events we had, because I know we had a lot of events. I want to say that was probably the Vietnam War. Nope, that was, oh yeah, well, it says here dates for the true Vietnam War was 1955 to 1975. So the 60s, they were kind of going overseas to Vietnam. So we had war going on, the hippies were there, sex, drugs, and everything else, and partying was like a way of life. People did not care about much of anything back in that time. Other than, those who wanted to do right. There was definitely a lot of issues with, segregation and discrimination back then as well. So let's not forget that let's look at it like this. Started around 1960s for North America, the 50s, for America, and then the 50s was with the French. Okay. Well, regardless of which, there was a lot of issues. I don't really think we have this many issues other than, moot. Basically what I would call moot, meaning it's pointless, but whatever. Just arguments of people thinking that, yeah, we're just going to go with that. It's not that I'm not open to what people are saying. I'm just not getting into all that because it's very political. There was political matters going on in 66 as well. I do agree with Sparta Chris. It may not have been unheard of back in those times. It just wasn't expected. That's it. And it definitely probably wasn't even on Gene Roddenberry's mind to say, hey, this is kind of a thing. Let me put it in the show. One thing that Gene Roddenberry did, and he took a great leap. He was told he would lose his entire career, if I remember correctly, if he had Nichelle Nichols and William Shatner kiss. Because back in that time, there was a segregation dealing with that, and that wasn't really, that definitely was not socially acceptable back in that time. I do not agree with that. I definitely do not agree with that, but it is the way of the times. I didn't live in the 60s. I wasn't even born until sometime after that fact, so we're going to go in. I wasn't there. There was nothing there was nothing I could have done to vote against it or vote for it. However you want to put that into terms, I can't vote against like segregation, say we need to get it out. This is wrong people. Everyone is equal. I wasn't there for any of that crap. It is part of history. It is in the past. You can't go back and change it. It happened. But Gene had a different vision. He had a vision of a future where that did not happen. So that man is my idol. Although I did hear, some things from, there are articles, stuff explaining that he also wasn't a very nice person. That he did have a few issues with some of the cast members. I'm not sure how far that is, like I said, I wasn't there, and I don't have any articles proving or disproving that. So, we do know that in the Next Generation, Dr. Beverly Crusher was removed from the show. They put her character basically saying that she went to Starfleet to teach at Starfleet Academy and to go to medical seminars because she was reaching a point in her career where she was reaching cutting edge medical advancements. So they had her character removed off the show. That was due to because there was a dispute between her and Gene Roddenberry at the time. So history is meant to be learned from and create a better future, not to be dug up as a dead corpse and paraded. Exactly. We have forgotten that. I like I said, I never got the chance to meet Gene Roddenberry. That would have been one of the greatest pleasures I could have ever had because he had a vision of a future that would have been more logical, that would have been, more accepting of anything. And unfortunately, I think we reached that height of that point back in the 90s and early 2000s. I don't agree with today's time stuff. I really don't. I believe if he was still around today, he would probably go in, what the hell are we doing? Definitely not the future that he had envisioned in his Star Trek. So, yeah. But anyway, we're not here for all of that. We are here to celebrate the birth of one of the greatest TV series that has been around for years. It is currently 57 today. Today is its birthday, so happy birthday, Star Trek. Rest in peace, Gene Roddenberry. He was one of the many that we have lost in Star Trek. So one of the other people we have lost in Star Trek, on top of DeForest Kelley, I think he has also passed on. He passed on in 1998, I believe. No, 1999. He was 79 years old. DeForest Kelley, rest in peace, sir. Much respect to you and your acting. James Doohan went around 2005, which was just about 5-6 years later. And then I think we've lost Nichelle Nichols as well. She went fairly recently into 2019. So losing legendary actors and actresses here. And then, of course, Leonard Nimoy passed in 2015. So just not even 10 years ago. I did not have the chance on meeting any of these actors or actresses. I did get to meet a Star Trek actor, and it was Brent Spiner. So I was very happy with that one. I've always wanted to meet some people from Star Trek just to, I don't know, tell them like they were like the biggest role models I've ever had. So going to play the Hobbit song. No, we're not playing the Hobbit song. I don't know why you brought that up, Chris. Chris, if you don't get in here, I'm gonna have to bump you down to. I'm gonna have to bump you down to third, dude. It looks like Jace might be taking your second. I don't know. But then again, I won't have someone to play Ghostbusters with. So sadly, and they say Star Trek back in this day wasn't as diverse. I disagree. If I remember correctly, in the first season of The Next Generation, there was a non-binary character actually in there. This person was not a male or a female. She did not have the parts, or this character did not have the parts, or male or female. But then she did want to declare that she was a female, but she was truthfully what you would call genderless.
Hi.
Oh, hey, look. I didn't even know you kept. Let me get your screen up because nobody can see you. It's
No
the
one can
voice.
hear me?
It's the voice of God, everyone. No. Hang on a second. I gotta. All
Well,
right.
I mean,
There we go. No, it's just the voice of
could
Chris
be.
Chris. Don't worry about it.
Hey, who says I'm not God?
That would be blasphemous, sir. Given that you're a big time Christian person.
Yes,
I
it would
hope
be
the world.
blasphemous of me.
I hope the world already knew that. If not, they now know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, how many
Okay.
times have I gone into religious sermons on Jace's channel? So,
Yeah. Tons. Tons.
have you
We were
seen
just.
the? Sorry, I was just saying, have you seen the Monarch trailer for Apple TV?
I think I saw it last night, actually. I gotta rewatch it again. Hang on a second. Let me pull that up and I will let you know. Oh, yes, I already saw that one. Definitely want to take a
I'll
look
let
at it.
I'll let you finish up with Star Trek talk, and then I'll say
Yeah,
how
it's
do you
its
feel
birthday.
about it.
I wish we had birthday hats and like those little blow thingies. Just to say happy birthday to Star Trek. One of the greatest TV series of all time.
Hmm.
Especially the original series. Like I said, I'm not big on Discovery or Picard, or I heard Picard actually got better. Someone told
That's what I
me.
heard. That's what I heard from a lot of people that they said that Picard got better in the more recent season. Like
Yep. I'm gonna.
they don't acknowledge the previous two seasons.
Yep, I'm gonna have to definitely take a look at that. I do watch Lower Decks, but that is kind of fun. That is kind of a goofy show. I don't count it as canon. Um, but then again, what is canon for Star Trek? Let's talk about that for a minute, because Star Trek has gone through some evolutionary or structural changes recently, starting with the 2009 Star Trek with Christopher Pine and Zachary Quinto. Okay, so I'm gonna say this: Zachary Quinto as Spock did a good job, but he's no Leonard Nimoy.
Like I said, are you gonna start singing the Hobbit song?
No, I'm not gonna sing the Hobbit song.
uh,
Oh
are you
boy. So
are you gonna talk about the global cooling and how we're gonna have snowball Earth in the next 10, 20 years?
they've been saying that since we were kids. I'm a full blown adult now. Now they're saying it to my kids, and they were
No, I
probably
said
saying it to our parents.
I know. No, I said global cooling. That was what they were
Oh,
telling our parents.
oh, oh! Now we're on global warming. What's it gonna be
Yeah,
next year, folks?
they have there's a promo done by Leonard Nimoy talking about global cooling and snowball Earth and everything.
Oh,
You
well,
never
they
saw that?
no, I guess I never did, but that's something that we will have to review. Um, let's review some more happier things. I do have something to review. Da 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 da. Oh wait, hang on a second. All right, gotta move that here. Here, you naughty thing, you go right over there. Yeah, that's right. You go right there. Um. Da, 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 da,
There you go.
da.
I sent you the video.
Oh, okay, fair enough. He's sending me a freaking video. I'm sitting here looking something up here real quick. Where the hell? Oh, yes. Yes, okay. Nope, that's not it either. Where is my freaking sheets at? Oh, here we go. Got it. Oh, that's probably not right. What is this? Okay, this is probably right. There we go. Oh, yes. All right. Now we got something to show. Haha. As soon as I find my screen share. Um, that's not it. Oh, I don't have one for this because this is the video game thing. That's right. I totally forgot about that. So now I have to make it. Okay, so we got to do a window capture. Gonna do a. Yeah, God, I could just say screen share. I don't need to freaking make a new screen. I gotta clean this up. I gotta clean up. I gotta clean up my. I definitely gotta clean
Possible.
up
Yes.
my
Your
my
OBS.
yeah. I gotta clean up. I got a lot of stuff in here. Probably not even probably. There we go. Haha. Crap, I'm covering our faces. Okay, hang on a second. If anyone hears people screaming in the background,
Mm-hmm.
those are my girlfriend's kids with probably my son. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, before we even started this stream, I did watch Star Trek with them. They love Star Trek. My son's favorite Star Trek character is actually Commander Tucker from Enterprise. He hasn't seen much of the other Star Treks yet, But I'm getting around to showing him. We're on season 2 of Enterprise, and he just loves Lieutenant Commander Tucker.
Oh, good then.
Oh yeah, that's like yeah. I'm still trying to. Oh, that's just too big of a screen. We got to back that down. There we go.
Way to go.
Oh yeah, yep. Too big of a screen, and I think I got cats about to fight behind me. There we go. All right, so we're just gonna park that right there. So yeah, so on top of the birth of a great TV show came one of the greatest games of all time, a licensed Star Trek tabletop role-playing game. Now, how many of you guys did not think that I was going to pull this up? Because if you thought this was never going to be mentioned, then you don't know me at all.
I'm just surprised that you didn't pull up sooner.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. I have played this with Witch King and Tobey, and I'm thinking maybe next year we're going to get back to it. We're going to talk about it, but this time I'm going to invite Spartacus and Jace and Prismatics and make them all part of a crew of an intrepid starship sailing through the stars, coming across a hidden planet, and maybe we will destroy canonical and Kelvin timelines and make up our own timeline. I don't know. I'm usually
So what?
not
Do
about
another
that.
do another time travel in order uh to erase another timeline?
Or you can just play in an alternate universe, which that happens.
Well, isn't that one with what's her face from Discovery? Isn't that an entirely different universe?
Nope. No, that was actually okay. So Discovery and Strange New Worlds follows, if I'm not mistaken, Picard, Strange New Worlds, and Discovery follows canonical timeline. And then what happened when Discovery was shot to the 32nd century, it follows both canonical and Kelvin timeline. They did mix that one. Lower Decks is Kelvin, and Picard and Strange New Worlds and Section 31 are all canonical, I think.
And they still have not paid for stealing that one guy's video game idea.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. Wait, what one video game idea?
The giant space traveling tardigrade.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that was stupid. That was stupid.
And I think they also stole a couple other ideas from other franchises or from other independent thinkers.
Well, these are not the original writers. Give me 1 second. I think I got cats. I think those cats down there are gonna come into a fight. Anyway, so let's see here. USS Discovery. Yeah, I believe that, like I said, that was canon. That was the main timeline. But Lower Decks is totally 100% Calvin, because in Star Trek, the 2009 movie, they had an Orion. They had Captain Kirk about to have sex with an Orion female, which in the original series that was very much unheard of, because Orion women had this strange pheromone sense of them, so they didn't really they weren't really part of Starfleet. Now they can join Starfleet in the Kelvin timeline.
A pheromone scent about them? You mean like when they're around people, they turn them horny and want to have sex with them?
Yeah, kind of like strippers. Anyway, but actually this
So
is more scientific.
Zeltrons from Star Wars.
Oh yeah, forget about them. But
So for those of you who are not,
I would like to point out that the Orions was actually made in 1967, so before Star Wars.
For those of you who are not Star Wars illiterate, Zeltrons are a red or pinkish skinned humanoid race who produce very powerful, strong pheromones, as well as a slight bit telepathic ability to read other people's minds and senses, and use their pheromones. And they love to party. They love to be the center of attention. They love just the atmosphere of other places. So anytime that you are around one, you'll want to be a little bit of you just feel good. Yeah, yeah. You just feel good, and they're always looking for the next big thrill.
Oh yeah, and so and the greatest thing about Lower Decks is it's hard to really play. A lot of people would argue Lower Decks on what timeline it's really in, because in Lower Decks it does take place after the events of Star Trek Voyager, but it is totally in a separate timeline from the mainstream one, because it may take place after Voyager, but it also has the USS Kelvin in it, and therefore the Kelvin timeline was made and created there.
I'm just kind of a little thrown off because, like, I'm a little thrown off that you actually like it, because, like, other Star Trek fans I've heard, they absolutely hate it because it's
I like it for
very,
I like it for
very
the idea.
bizarre.
Well, see, I like it for the idea is if I want the Family Guy, American Dad humor, I can just go to that without actually having Family Guy or American Dad.
Yeah, it always kind of came off as more of a Rick and Morty kind of humor to me.
Oh God, I cannot stand Rick and Morty. I hate them. I hate Rick and Morty with a passion. I looked at that show and go, oh my God, I lost brain cells.
Wow, I am shocked by that too, because I like all my adult friends that I've known, they all love Rick and Morty, and now I'm like hearing that from you.
Yeah, yeah.
But Rick and Morty never got my attention. I'm not a big fan of stupid comedy.
No, neither
I'm
am
not a
I.
fan of the gross out stupid comedy. It just doesn't get my
The
attention.
thing with Lower Decks is they have Easter eggs from all TV series of Star Trek in there, and I'm able to get the references. There was a reference of a lot of TOS stuff. Hell, even Jack Ransom, who I really can't stand that character, and I wish he would just choke to death at times.
How
You
nice
know,
of you.
he goes, he makes a reference of the actual DVD set of Star Trek. He goes, yep, I just can't stand dealing with legacy planets from the TOS era. And they're like, TOS? Yes, those old scientists.
Eh.
And I'm like, wow, where do you think he's going to break the fourth wall barrier? He totally doesn't. And it's like, oh God, that was like so stupid. So I wasn't a big fan of, like, I'm just a fan of it in ways of, I like the humor, but that's about it. I like maybe some of the characters because, Tendi, the Orion female science officer, she kind of is kind of like funny at times, because where you think, like, she goes through a lot of bullshit, and where you think she's going to be down, everyone's like, Tendi, it'll be okay. Are you kidding me? It was a blast! And I'm like, oh boy. She held a heart. And the guy's like, that is extremely painful. And she's like, I'm sorry. And it's like, oh my God. So terrible.
Okay. Okay. Nutty.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. So, yep. So you're probably all wondering why I have the Starfleet personnel file right here. You can also play the Klingons. I do own all these books. Most all PDFs and most physical copies. I'm working on getting both as we talk, as we're currently talking.
It looks very new generation-ish.
Yeah, well, it's definitely supposed to follow the next. It's called the Next Generation. I believe if you go on Modifius's actual website, Modifius Modifius does have one that is from the TOS era. So, which TOS was a good era. I should like get a bunch of players together and just play on a Constitution class vessel. Be like, yes, we're following Enterprise's route. We're making second contact with everybody. I don't think I can put up with that one.
Well, I mean, is there any way that you could possibly have some intergalactic war that you could do.
Oh god, there's a ton of intergalactic wars. Okay, so what really pissed me off with Discovery is they talk about the intergalactic war between the humans and the Klingons, which totally happened and it already had a history drawn out, but they fucked it up with the spore drive. Because
What drive?
the spore drive, which is the tardigrade. It's
Okay.
called the Battle of the Kittimer Accords, which
Oh
did
god, now
eventually.
I just remembered something else that a lot of people are complaining about from New Trek, which is the supernatural child who cried and destroyed all starship fuel in the entire galaxy.
Oh God, yes, I believe that was. It wasn't even a Q, if I remember correctly.
Ooh, jeez.
So, okay, so to bring up the Kittimer Accords consisted of two historic peace treaties between the Klingon Empire and the United Federation of Planets, and were the first steps in reconciliation between the two powers. The first Kittimer Accords were signed in the year 2293. See, there was already. That's the 23rd century. There was already history for it that had nothing to fucking do with Discovery and why they needed a spore drive. There's even starship events that led to this. Number 1, Stardate 9522.6. Enterprise USS Enterprise A departs space dock to rendezvous with Kronos 1. Captain James T. Kirk is framed for the assassination of the Klingon Chancellor Gorkon. Oh, I believe that was in Undiscovered Country. Oh, there's that. Okay. The USS Excelsior. Tuvok, who is from Voyager, people, graduates from Starfleet Academy and is assigned to the starship USS Excelsior under the command of Captain Sulu, which was in a Voyager flashback. But this is history right here. Stardate
Well, it was
9521.6.
history.
Yeah, now they completely rewritten that. Bastards. The Excelsior is struck by a powerful subspace shockwave caused by the destruction of the Klingon moon Praxis. Upon discovering the cause of the disaster, Sulu immediately contacted the Klingon High Command to offer ship's assistance. The Klingons included an officer on Praxis called for help. However, the transmission was cut off when Brigadier Kurla, who is a Klingon with a lobster on his head. I believe this is also the one that
What?
has. You got to remember, in the 23rd century, there was two types of Klingons: one with lobsters on their heads, and one that weren't. And there was reasons for it. That's what we call their. It's
Okay.
that's how that. Okay, so that's when we make fun of Klingons that has ridges because they look like lobsters on their heads.
Well, I mean, I am a commoner to this lore, so
Yep, there
okay.
you go. Yep. All right. So they basically started getting. This is what actually started getting this was a war between Starfleet, and the moon was destroyed because there was a battle between a Starfleet starship and the Klingon Empire. Of course, it doesn't say it, but obviously they didn't really cover it. But hey, look, it is up for interpretation. You could have made something around that. Instead, we got Discovery. We can't win without the spore drive. We got to be able to instantly transmit through anywhere in the galaxy, which, by the way, Voyager had that. We would have only had one episode that meant nothing, and the whole thing would have been defeated. So fuck you, people. You destroyed a good sense of thing, which I think they get rid of the spore drive.
I have no clue. You are better knowledgeable at this than I am.
I've got to start watching Discovery again. All right, moving on. Stardate 9715.5. The USS Enterprise B is commissioned under the command of Captain John Harriman. By the way, I like this one because this is also the ship that supposedly believed to have killed James T. Kirk. James T. Kirk, they were caught in a storm, a particular type of shockwave, and they couldn't get, it was like a ribbon, and they were saving some people on there, which, then we get Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan on there as well, and it struck the ship, sucking Captain Kirk into space. However, his body was never recovered. He actually ended up in the Nexus, and where he just arrived in the Nexus, he simultaneously met Captain Jean-Luc Picard, who asks him to come and help him in the future, to where the future is being threatened by a madman named Sauron. Or Saren.
I
Sauron.
remember watching that movie.
That was Star Trek Generations. Folks, that is a good fucking movie. On top of Star Trek The First Contact. Although they would say that probably ruined the Borg. But we'll talk about that later. There were some other events. The Klingon moon praxis explodes in the undiscovered country. Great community conference takes place. My God, we could have had something around this. A couple space battles, whatever.
What would have happened? What would have happened if the crew of the original Star Trek came into contact with the Borg?
Ha ha ha! Maybe we should play that what if scenario. Let's analyze that, shall we? We're gonna get rid of this actually because that'll probably come back. Let's look at that. So you have the USS Enterprise. What's it say? Enterprise. I don't want A particularly. By the way, the USS Enterprise does commonly follow. No, I did not. Was that you? No. Okay. So somebody did something and nothing really happened. Great for that.
What?
All right. I probably want the non-canon beta site, even though it says non-canon. It just does it because it actually posts some really good realistic stuff on like the capabilities of a starship. See, and that's another thing that Star Trek gave us: modeled ships of fantasy. Ah! I'm sorry, I was such a girl there. I don't give a fuck.
Deep breaths, man. Deep breaths.
Oh yeah. Memory beta, that's what it was. Okay, so the original Constitution. Thank you. I could not say it for some strange reason. Had some. Well, see, now you guys got to remember in Captain Kirk's time in the 23rd century, this was top of the line. This here was like cutting edge technology for that timeline. So let's see here. Let's look up some. There's a lot of information here. I just want the ship specifications here. Oh God, where is it? You think I would know where this stuff is on the internet because I look it up like every freaking day. And yes, I look it up every freaking day. Shocking. Why do I look it up every freaking day? Because I love Star Trek, people. I run games, people. Don't judge me.
Like I said, shocking.
Yeah, not really. You should know me better than that.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. Shocking. In a...
Oh, okay. Thank God. I think I finally found it. Okay. Nope. 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 What the hell is this? Okay, there we go. Oh, that was it? Oh, it brought me to the same page I was before, and I thought it was the wrong one. Well, that sucks. Do we have... Wow. Okay, here we go. Maybe I'm looking up the wrong one. Here, let me just look up the Constitution class itself. Screw the actual ship. Oh, that gives me what I want. Okay, I found it. Okay, so a normal Constitution class vessel, which is what the original Enterprise was, supposedly is about 762 meters long, about 335.28 meters wide, with a height of 190.5 meters. It has a crew of approximately 1,100, and it carries multiple photon torpedo launchers and dual phase emitters, and as well as deflector shields, which was newly added because before that they had something called defense screens, and then polarizing the hull. That was before they actually realized, hey, we should use shields, And in a sense, in some people's minds, defense screens is a little bit different and weaker than the actual shields, which eventually they did away with. So yeah.
So which one are you using? Which
The Constitution class. I'll just. Oh wait, that's the Kelvin timeline. Whoops. I don't want
Yeah,
that
I'm
one.
looking at I'm looking at the Memory Alpha wiki,
Yep,
and
that's what I'm doing. Oh, I'm on memory beta.
it says that the Constitution, the length was 288.6 meters square cubed. It says beam was 127.1 meters, height was 72.6 meters, and dex was 22. Crew is 203.
I like my. I like
It had
my. I like my
it
way
had
better, but okay.
six. It had six phaser emitters, two forward torpedo launchers, and aft torpedoes, and antimatter charges.
Give me a second. Oh god, there we go. Oh, much better. Oh yeah, 288.6 meters. Okay. Yeah, I was on the wrong one. I was on the one for the Kelvin timeline, which was actually changed for the movie. Lame.
Shame on you.
23 decks and a crew of 430 people. Warp 8 on the old scale. Warp 6 cruising speed on the old scale. Reason why is because the scales for warp speed did change between the original series and the next generation. So, this thing is pretty much decked out. Now, let's look at a Borg cube, people. So, Borg cube. Borg cube is roughly 3,000 meters length, width, and height. Everything has to be symmetrical for the Borg. That's how they are. There's about 1,700 decks, roughly 640,000 Borg drones, capable beyond transwarp drive, which is beyond the speed of light. 36 adaptable weapon arrays, 12 focused neutron beam banks, 24 tractor beam emitters, shield pulse, depletion pulse emitters, and regenerative shields. And then eventually, if need be, it can also bring out one Borg sphere to help it battle, which is housed inside the central core. Woo!
Okay.
Well,
also the one thing real quick is that you also gotta remember that this is a board cube that is what 60, 50 years after the events of the original Star Trek show. So
no, 100.
what? Okay, 100 then. 100 years after the original Star Trek show. So you got to think about what advances were added to it in that time period.
Well, see, that's the thing. The Borg wasn't even a thing in the 23rd century. They were still in the Delta Quadrant. And their origins, even to this day, are still unknown. Nobody actually ever did anything on their origins for a while. And still to this day, haven't done anything on their origins. So let's see here. James T. Kirk. His time served was... Oh boy, where are you? Okay, 2293. And so Captain Picard, when he met the Borg, which was in the first couple seasons. Uh-huh. Let's see. It's like 2364 is when it began. And so doing the math here. Okay, doing the math for Kirk. We're looking at 2293. So 2364, which is safe. I'm almost really on top of that one. It was either 63 or 64. So we'll do 2464. Or no, 2364 minus 2293, 71 years. So yeah, it's been a while. So, but once again, we don't know how the Borg cube really worked. So the Borg fleet cube went through 3 different versions in the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th century, respectively, referencing the Star Trek Encyclopedia, First Contact, and unfortunately Star Trek Online, and potentially Star Trek Legacy. So it's pretty much safe to say that we don't really know what the issue is there, or how advanced they were back in those times. I do know that Captain Archer in the Star Trek Enterprise did actually eventually meet up with the Borg because they traveled from the future to the past and they had all the futuristic technology, and of which they sent a message out, but it wouldn't have reached the end, where that location in the Delta Quadrant for another 400 to 600 years. So, yeah.
Okay. So they would probably have been already a good match for Kirk already.
Oh yeah. Well, Kirk is also space cowboy. That's how they looked at the. That's how people of Voyager thought about actually those from the TOS series, is that they're space cowboys because space was so much bigger. They didn't have, the most that they have is warp. Warp 8 is the maximum speed for a Constitution class, although they did excel to Warp 9 before. Hell, they even went to Warp 15, but that was on a different scale. Totally different scale. So following the old scale, converting it to the new scale, they can't exceed Warp 8. Whereas the Galaxy class starship, when they first encountered the Borg, had the capabilities of Warp 9.6 for standard, 9.8 for emergencies, and then after they did one refit, it was 9.9. Cruising speeds Warp 6, and it was well more decked out than, and it's a Galaxy class. This was cutting edge technology for 23, the 2300s, 2363. So it's hard to say really how Kirk would have fared, but we could always like go under the modifius standards of rules and see how it would have definitely fared. I mean, the Borg has adaptive technology and stuff like that, but maybe I don't know, maybe that's something we should look into, for another show. Not tonight, but another show.
Yep.
So, Sparta Chris, what do you know about Star Trek?
Very little. Very, very little.
Ah, okay. Never got into
I
it?
know that. I mean, I watched a couple of the movies, and I did watch Star Trek Enterprise. And it was entertaining. I just never got into it. So I
Okay.
know about the theory that some people put out there that it's a totalitarianistic dystopian future.
Oh, yeah. First off, they don't like to use the word military. Section 31, nobody likes to acknowledge, and it's not supposed to be. That's basically Black Ops. Um, yeah, so they like to think they're peaceful people. And you don't have to join the Federation, you just don't get their help if you don't. So, yeah, I mean, they're, like normal people. You can't, if you don't give something, you can't get something for free, although many times other races have, such as the Bajorians. The Bajorians have no problem joining Starfleet. Their biggest problem with Starfleet was, Cisco told them not to join because if they did, it would have wiped out all of Bajor, because that was a vision he had from someone. Oh.
Oh, what?
Oh, somebody just sent me a message. They would like to join the stream. So I think we're about to have a guest star here.
Oh,
Let
really?
me. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, look at that. Well, I sent it out that I'd be welcome to invite anyone. And it looks like it's Ralt's Bloodthorn. Ooh, hello. I'm going to send you, if you go to your Twitter, I'm going to send you. It'll be nice to meet you, friend. Uh, we're very civil here, so you don't have to worry about anything. Um,
You
we're
should
gonna.
run while you still have a chance.
Yes, it's too late for Sparta Chris, so. Sorry, I wasn't keeping up on my okay. Yeah, sorry I wasn't keeping up on my Twitter stuff. I just decided to get in there. So, woo. All right.
Very
So the
smooth.
greatest thing is I'm gonna open up a third screen,
Oh, cool.
which has me in it. Oh, there we go. Maybe that's the wrong screen. Okay, that I can work with this. Let me get rid of that one and okay. I'm gonna move you over here. And like the audience is going, "Oh my god, he's moving the screens around." What?
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. So are you a gamer fan or are you a Star Trek fan or both?
Um, Old Star Trek, yeah, but I mean, tabletop gaming. I've been gaming since '83.
Oh yeah.
Wrote my own series, wrote my own stuff for a while. Did some freelance work for the big names, stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
So
Well, it's nice.
tabletop gaming.
Oh, well, it's nice to have you. My name is Tabletop Junkie, and this is my co-host Sparta Chris. We do this mostly just
Hey.
for fun, so it's nice to meet you for the first time. So
Yeah, nice to meet you. I saw you were inviting anybody and figured I'd show up tonight. It'd be kind of cool.
yeah. Well, and I don't normally do that because kind of got social phobia. Socially
And
awkward
also,
with people.
you never know what weirdos may come in.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
It's just tonight I originally had a different plan. I originally had a different plan for tonight, but the problem that we had, I had to cancel because I had people who just randomly stopped by my house and was like, "Yeah, I'm inviting myself over. We want to come see you." And it's like, why? It's like I have gaming, I have Castles and Crusades tonight. It's like,
Is it? Are you still being harassed by those little midgets that claim that they're your boyfriends?
oh, very funny, very funny. No, that was my mother. Thank you. That was my mother.
I would absolutely lose my. I would go crazy if my mother showed up. Because she's been dead for 2 years. I'd be like,
oh god, yeah. Well, I'm not that.
I mean, at least you'll know that she's coming by the smell first.
yes. Well, I want to know how she fixed herself from cremation and be like, I'm gonna look up at the sky and see if my neighbor's there.
Oh, well, if that happens, we all know God came.
Yep. So I heard you talking about the Federation when I first joined and started listening to your stream.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A friend of mine used to be able to say that he could prove that the Federation was actually a dystopia.
What do you think the Federation was?
Yeah.
I want to know your opinion.
I don't think the Federation itself as a civilization was hashed out very well. It was mostly left nebulous because all it is the supporting scaffolding for Starfleet, which Starfleet has never really been done that much except for like the original Star Trek Fleet Battles book. And Starfleet was mainly another support structure just for the ships and the crews to go out and find adventure. So it's too nebulous to really get an idea.
There wasn't really much of a. That's right. There wasn't much of other than a prime directive. Don't contaminate don't contaminate timelines if you time travel. Don't contaminate cultures. You can meet other cultures as long as they're on the same level as you, but you can't contaminate. And you can meet other cultures as long as you dress up like them, but you can't contaminate their natural evolutionary cycle. Which, of course, that was forced on Starfleet by the Vulcans and Enterprise. They said you should never contaminate a culture, and and the humans just accepted that as like a thing. Although I do know that Kirk, a few times, has went against the Prime Directive. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was almost court-martialed. In the new movie, they actually showed the court-martials. In the original series, I think they were just briefly mentioned that, he was just a bit of a cowboy on edge, and, and Spock
they also had his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend be the prosecutor.
Oh, yeah. Good times.
Which, I mean, that's the video that I watched where it talked about how the Federation was a dystopian, socialistic, authoritarian government. That's one of the things that they pointed out. Because in a really just society, you wouldn't have a conflict of interest like that in a trial, in a military trial, but obviously whoever set up the trial wanted a conviction.
Yeah, yeah. Picard actually went through something like that quite a few times. There was establishing if Data was truly a sentient life form, because he was artificial life, not actual life. So there was a trial for that, and then he actually did accompany Wesley Crusher for a few trials, especially when he screwed up. And Tom Paris, he was partnered up with Tom Paris, who is the helmsman of Voyager, but not until years later. Him and Tom Paris, they made an illegal maneuver that was deemed too dangerous to do by both Starfleet and the Vulcan High Command. So, and they performed it, resulting a killing of one of their friends because he could not do it. It was hard to do. They said that they did a Jaeger loop. Instead, they were doing a orbital starburst. It was supposed to be an orbital control starburst, which was an illegal maneuver that was already performed by cadets and officers of higher stature than them, far more experience, and it couldn't be done. So Tom Paris told all of them to lie, and they almost expelled all of them from Starfleet. And of course, if you get expelled from Starfleet, good luck getting a job in this future.
Yeah.
And also another thing that I heard about is that everything we know about the Star Trek universe comes from basically the logs that have to be basically approved by or that go through like government entities and everything, all the captain logs and all that stuff.
Captain logs are uploaded to a server from the starship once they're sent back through subspace, and they are reviewed and approved by Starfleet Command, which is ran by a bunch of admirals. When you kind of say it like that, it's totally a totalitarian government there.
And I mean, you also don't have capitalism. You have basically some kind of
global economy.
It seems too good to be true. So I mean, it just seems too good to be true.
They don't have use for money. Money used to destroy their civilization, and that's what caused World War III. Now they don't have use for it, and their societies ran off of the merits and the works of the people.
Just like China.
Well, the idea had to come from somewhere.
So, I mean, how is the future not supposed to be totalitarianistic, socialist, authoritarian government?
Yeah, totally. I think we already had this argument once, Chris, and I told you I couldn't prove it because, I mean, yes, in orbital, when it came to the defense of the planet, they would use the very ships that they're using to explore and search for adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly.
Armed warships. But at the same time, armed warships make sense. I mean, I'm sorry. You're going out there, what you're going to see.
Well, I mean, yes, even the explorers during the 15th century, they had armed warships and everything, so...
Oh, yeah.
If you don't know what you're heading into.
Exactly, you're heading into the unknown.
I mean, what kind of idiots would go out into the unknown without some kind of means of self-preservation?
Captain Archer did.
And what happened to him?
They eventually did arm it with torpedoes, and they did get the phase cannons. He just didn't want to do it because he wanted to prove the Vulcans wrong. And that was when the Klingons and the Suliban first crash landed on Earth, and they're like, well, we'll just keep you. Vulcans were kind of controlling Starfleet at the time, going, well, you guys need to be grounded for another 100 years. And he's like, no, if my ship can make it, we could do it. We'll be fine. We don't need to upload anything. We don't need anything. We can leave space dock right now. But you're not armed yet. I don't care. We will be better than the Vulcans. And he's like, yeah, that did not work out in his favor at all.
Oh, geez.
He hated the Vulcans that much because because they were supposed to see the first Enterprise, the first Starship Enterprise, was supposed to see flight before his dad died. And they grounded him for another 10 to 20 years. And he never saw the test field of his Warp 5 engine. So.
I didn't get to. I mean, I watched most of the Next Generation. I tapped out after a while. I ended up involved in stuff, but the original series I mostly watched on videotape, and it
Yeah.
was bootleg.
Well, so I will say this: the only reason why I know so much about Star Trek is my father, when he was alive, made sure I watched every episode because he thought it was cool, and he thought it'd be cool to get me into it. So him and I had something to talk about, and sure enough, we did. And we didn't get along in later years, but I still remember seeing the adventures of the episodes, starting with the original series. He was showing me that, and then my series was always the Next Generation. I always loved. I felt a connection with Jean-Luc. I felt a connection with how his command structure was, with how he, and before I was a father, I felt like I was a lot like him. I didn't know how to deal with other people's kids, and I was, like anytime kids came over, I was like, kind of like how he was with Wesley Crusher in the first two episodes. And then I had a son of my own in 2009, and now I'm showing him all of this work. Right now, it's my girlfriend, one of my girlfriend's daughters, and him are sitting down watching Enterprise with me because I'm having them watch it in historical chronological order and explaining to them how this fits into the timeline in the universe. And he has already deemed like Commander Tucker from Enterprise is his favorite thing. He likes engineers because engineers build stuff. I think he's gonna like Geordie LaForge and Scotty from the TOS once he sees those episodes. He does remember seeing Data in a few of them. He did like Data, and he did get to meet Bert Spiner with me, so he loved it. So
That's cool. At least you got to meet
yeah.
Brett Spiner. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Yep, I met him earlier this year. It was very much, oh god, it was like, I can't even explain it. I can't form it into words. It was just a speechless, to see one of my idols for the first time in my entire life. I never thought I would actually ever get to meet any of my idols from Star Trek, but I was wrong, so I take it like that.
Nice.
Yep. So, all right. So from the gaming aspect, because I heard you talked about how you were a gamer and you've been gaming for quite a while now.
A long time. Yeah,
30, like 30. I think you say like 33 or 43 years.
83.
40 years.
40 years. Okay. All right. So, have you ever dived into Modifius's 2D20 system at all in recent times, or no?
I haven't played Star Trek since oh god, I think it was the 90s. They came out with an update to the Starfleet box set, and I think I remember we played that. We played that for a while, but yeah, we used to make ships and everything else.
Yep, I was wondering if that was D20. What was that
was
back in the day?
I think it was Dice 6. I think the original. I think it was Dice 6 all the way back then.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that I have not seen that. I do know there was a D20 version either in the late 90s or early 2000s, but it did not really float very well with the license or something like that. I just know I haven't seen any of the books, and you can't find them anymore. So when Modifius did this, I was like, yes, there's a Star Trek game. I'm so getting it. And I got my paycheck. I was working. I remember I got my paycheck. I was married to my second wife at the time, who I divorced over a year ago. And I said, I'm buying this. This is my thing. I love Star Trek. And she said, okay. But deep down inside, she's like, you're spending my money, goddamn it. You're spending my money, And it's like, it's my money, I work for it, but whatever, Many things. She was a big spender where I was a saver, but when this came out, I dropped money on the book. I dropped money on the PDFs. I remember Ironcaster, Chris, you know Ironcaster.
Yep.
I know when Ironcaster first discovered it, he showed it, he says, Table, you need to get this. I know you're a big Star Trek fan. And I ended up with physical books of Star Trek Adventures. I ended up with the physical core book with the division books because they got a command division book. They got a science and operations division book with all different shirts on them. Very colorful, very colorful. And then I ended up with the Cleon book as well. Also very colorful. They do massive, awesome art. Nothing with like live action pictures. It's all hand drawn, or digitally drawn. It's really nice, and I spend a lot of money on those books. The only thing I don't have physical copies of, because what had happened was I got a bunch of the PDFs on a deal that Modifius put out, and I ended up getting a bunch of them for like, I think it was like $50 to $100, and they released a whole bunch to try and get a mass sale going so they could hook people in, because they also have miniatures. They also have sets where you could take like pogs, like little like 2D pogs. Like you could do the 3D miniatures, or you could just do like the 2D pogs, move around the map and stuff like that. It was amazing. And then I believe it was Geeks and Sundry that did a actual play with it with some prestigious YouTube streamers, and they did like 50 episodes of it, where they played on an Intrepid class vessel from Star Trek Voyager. It wasn't Voyager itself; it was another Intrepid class that they made up, and they went through all the stuff, and it was, in the book is the hardest thing I do have the book is the index is not easy to understand. The index part of it and where you can find some of the information, but I read that book like, I don't know, 100 times now. I still open up my gaming books and just read them, especially for Star Trek, because I can't always just sit down and play games and watch the shows. So I sometimes open up those books just to take a glimpse of my past.
You have adulting to do.
Yeah, okay. We'll call that later on that adulting part. We'll say I have adulting to do, but I'm gonna take a break from that. So, Chris, I know you don't have much of a gaming background and you don't have much in Star Trek, but still thank you for joining me today on this.
Hey, why wouldn't I be?
What else? So I do want to know more about our new friend over here, Mr. Mad Angel. We'll just call you Angel. Is that okay?
No, you can just call me Ralt. Just call me Ralt. So I gotta fix
Ralt.
that. Let me fix that real quick.
Yep, not a problem.
Mr. Mad Archangel.
It's from my novel series. I'll fix the name real quick.
Nice. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see. Oops. Nope. Don't want to do that. Anyway, just call me Ralt. Ralt is good enough.
How many critics have you paid to get the New York's Best Time Seller?
None. Critics can eat my ass.
I like that.
People do that. People do that, and they're like, "Oh, I'm on the New York Times bestseller list." Well, I'd rather be on a wanted list. So there's that.
Well, did you go to January 6th? Because then you are on the wanted list.
No, I didn't. No, I saw that shit coming a mile away.
Let's keep that off the stream. We're not big on politics.
Sorry. I just had to.
Down, boy.
Down. I cannot remember how to change my in-channel name.
Oh, it's okay. I got your lower third right here. I don't hand make some of these, but I make a lot of these screens and stuff for OBS where I can have my own thing going. I did use StreamYards for a while, but it didn't seem. But at the time, now I'm looking back, and StreamYards is so much more easier and customizationable now than it was back when I was paying for it. And I was like, well, I want to do some of these features, but I can't do it in StreamYards. It just didn't have those features at the time. Now they kind of do, but I still enjoy not paying for it because I also pay for an editing program for my intros. I did just make a hold screen where, it just says, hey, hit like in there, please subscribe. So, and then I do have an outro. So, and I've been getting into more and more editing because I try to use some videos for my games.
Yeah, I don't do streams. I let other people stream because screw that. I don't like messing with everything.
No. I got into streaming with. So I had a friend. His name is Ironcaster. He seems to be the catalyst of everything around here.
Well, I mean, he's the whole reason why you and I met. So
Yeah. I met Jace, and then I met you through him. So Ironcaster was introducing me to a bunch of streamers and said, "Tabletop, you know, I already had the name Tabletop Junkie because what had happened was I had a bunch of money in my savings." And one day, I don't know what, something clicked in my brain. I went to that's what it was. I went out to the store and I saw D&D 5e, Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, all the books you'll ever need right there, all on the shelf, ready for my picking. All I got to do is pick them up and buy them. I'm like, and this time I'm sitting in there with like, I'm not going to say how many thousands of dollars I saved up, but I saved up a ton and enough to buy those books. And I was
he had $1 million.
No. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to buy these books. And I think the order came to like $1,000. And,
wow.
And then, yeah. Because I bought all the core books for D&D 5e. And then I bought like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 supplement books, one of them being the 5e Middle Earth lore book for Lord of the Rings. I ended up buying also the GM screens. I bought the GM screen for Call of Cthulhu, and all the books I'll ever need for Call of Cthulhu, which ended up being like 5 or 6. And then you think I would stop there? No. You know what else they had? Star Wars, Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, Force and Destiny, all on the shelf. And I'm like, I'm also a Star Wars fan. Snipe, and then I'm just like taking those off the shelf and I'm going to add those to the order. And then when you know it, I saw Shadowrun and I'm like, oh, I love Cyberpunk. And then I saw Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red. Now I didn't buy 2020 at the time because I didn't know if it was the actual 2020 or if it was something else, but it was a reprinting of it, and I didn't get it because I was a dumbass. But I did get Cyberpunk Red, and I saw Cyberpunk Red on the same day, and I'm like, yep, taking that too.
Deep breath, man. Deep breath. Take a breath.
And,
you need a tissue?
No. And then let's see, what else did I get? I got the starter set for Dungeons & Dragons box set, the Age of Empire, the Edge of the Empire, Age of the Rebellion box sets, all at the same time. And then I took pictures and uploaded it to my Discord server. And one of them, his name is Tobey, turned around and said, dude, you're a junkie. You need help. And I'm like, yes, I'm the Tabletop Junkie. And the name stuck. I was going under a different name at the time. And I was like, nope, Tabletop Junkie. And then one day, Ironcaster comes to me and says, Tabletop, this would be great for you. And I'm like, you already got the screen name. The screen name's awesome. Here, make a Twitter account. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably never going to do anything with this. And and I need more books.
Where are you wrong?
And I'm like, I'm probably never going to use this. And literally 1 year later, so originally my wife and I broke up at the time because she committed infidelity, and I took her back, being an idiot, and she committed it again. And then I kicked her out, and I was like, I'm gonna just start streaming. I finally get time to do it now, and I don't have a woman to tie me down. Well, that's not the case now, but
Is she standing right behind you, giving you daggers? Dagger eyes?
No. She ain't giving me daggers. How did that happen? You guys switch places.
Don't know.
Neither do I.
Well, hello, Spartacus. How are you doing?
We'll just swap that around. So, yeah. And so the name stuck. And, yeah, okay. So to basically go off of what you were saying there, Chris, yeah, I was totally in the wrong. And you know what? It was one thing I was wrong about that I was glad to be wrong about, because I made so many new friends doing this, and I have a channel with like over 128 subscribers. I think it might be over now, hopefully.
Mrs. Tabletop says you need more books.
Yep. Nope, still 128 subscribers.
Oh
Yeah, but
God, I before my house burned down. It was in the 1990s. My house burned down because of a forest fire,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
I had just about everything. I mean, I had stuff from Fast. I had stuff from Games Workshop. I had stuff from. I mean, I had Thorn. I mean, I had the Thorn system. I had the Arms Law, Claw Law, Spell Law. I had all that stuff. I had every book. I was missing one book. I was missing
wow.
one book for AD&D, and that was FR4 the Magister, because you literally could not find it because they did a limited run and never reprinted it. I had all of the
Oh
Shadowrun
wow.
books. I had everything for Ravenloft. I had everything for Dark Sun. I mean, I even had Harn. Uh, I had the City State of the Invincible Overlord. I had everything for BattleTech. And now I've only got 5 shelves of stuff.
Oh yeah,
I,
I used to have all the books. I had Alpha Omega. I had some sandbox systems. A couple indie developers developed. I used to have all the books for Pathfinder First Edition. I moved to Florida and lost most of that, and only collected a few things back. And then everything else, from Call of Cthulhu to all my Castles and Crusades, D&D 5e, Star Trek. My Star Wars books, Shadowrun books, all of that was recent buys over the last 2 or 3 years. I have literally told my girlfriend, yeah, that's a shelf worth $5,000 right there, because I spent just a little under 1,300 on some of the books that are there now, and the books that I got with her. So with her, I bought all the Castles Crusades books, and then I bought her daughter, because her daughter's like, "Can you teach me to play Castles and Crusades?" I said, "Oh, I have no problem with it, but do you know what tabletop gaming is?" She's like, "I know what Dungeons and Dragons is, if that's what you're telling me." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, wow, sassy." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" She's like, "Well, my dad's a gamer." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, and
Nice.
she always wanted to play with him. So I said, "Well, I'll teach you too." And so I got her, and then my son is also a gamer. Their friend, they have a friend, and they all have a club going on at school, or at least that they're trying to get going. They just went back to school, so they're trying to get the club approved by the principal. Um, and so I've got like 5 kids that play Dungeons and Dragons. They come over the house just to play, and it's like, wow, okay. So oh boy. And so all those books I bought new. I bought all the original, if you remember, in the 80s. Chris, you wouldn't know this, but Raltz would know this. In the 80s, Mike Pondsmith making Cyberpunk 2020. And I
yes.
ended up getting it all, if not, I think I'm missing like only 2 books. I'm missing only like a book or two of the original 2020 run.
Nice, nice.
That
Probably one of the Night City books. Those are hard to get.
Oh yeah. I got the one with the Neo tribes. That one was hard. What was it? The Roads of America or something like that. It
Yes.
shows the nomads with the flag. That one went out, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get that. And then it came back, and I was like, I'm getting it. I snatched it up. I snatched it up and spent like another. Oh god, must have been another $400. And my girlfriend is just like looking at me like, wow, you just
Shadowrun.
can't help. You can't help yourself, can you?
Shadowrun will kill you.
Yeah.
Shadowrun will kill you trying to get it all because, I mean, especially if you're trying to get every edition, because second edition was so big.
Oh yeah.
I
No,
mean,
no. I'm only trying to get only 2020, because 2030 was no good. It was their failed edition. And the first edition is not even like, you can't recover anything from that. Nope, just 2020, and I think I got enough of the books that I was happy with, because I only wanted the books that added stuff to the game. I didn't want any of the setting books per se, because I could always figure that out later, if I wanted to run like a game using Atom Smasher or something like that. So I got maybe the books that would add all this new tech to your character, all these new gadgets to your world and stuff like that, new vehicles and stuff. That's the one, the Neo Tribes, I believe it is, uses, where they give you a bunch of brand new vehicles that you could just play in the 2020 era. So yeah, And I have a huge collection now, and I have 5 more books coming from Troller Games. Happily to announce, because I backed 3 books, and then I backed just 2 more that just went live on a Kickstarter 2 days ago. So, yeah, I live up to my name. I'm a junkie.
Yes, you are, and I've contributed to your obsession.
My wife's just happy if I don't pick up like $100 in books in a month. Because I mean, I play Rifts, and Rifts books are expensive, but they're worth it.
Yes, they are. I've seen those. I thought about getting into Rifts, but then I saw it. I was like, maybe another time when I'm done with one of my other collections. Sparta Chris, you are responsible for one of my Castle Crusades books, and you are responsible for the Army of Darkness role-playing game.
Yes.
Modeled after Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. I am a big Bruce Campbell fan.
How much trouble did you have getting the licensing?
The license book, I think it was sold from the main site.
Oh! For some reason I thought we had somebody in here who was writing for it. I'm sorry.
No.
My brain must have glitched.
No.
My brain glitches.
I told you I wrote most of my own campaigns, but no, I never published. I never published any of them. No.
And he does a good job at it too.
I have nothing published, unfortunately, at this time.
Yeah, it's really not. Tabletop publishing, I would not advise people to get into it.
I know a few who have. They've been pretty successful with it, but it is hard to get into. It is not.
It's a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, I see what some of my friends go through, and I'm like, yeah, like I don't mind doing it, but I want to have fun.
Might as well keep it to yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, because you put it out there, and it's like everybody in the world jumps on you because of like one line when you're dealing with one fantasy species, and everybody flips out, and it's like,
I tease Cable about one of the characters that he made, which him and his girlfriend and I constantly refer to as Roger.
Oh, you're talking about
Ryleman.
Yeah, Ryleman. But that was a halfling, and that was from a game. Now he was talking like where you take L's from like D&D and you change it to make it into your own actual game, and you write a book about it. He's talking like stuff like that, especially even with the OGL Wizards now, they have that whole spiel where they're trying to get rid of that and claim other people's works, which we won't talk about that. It's out there. The world sees enough of it. I have friends who cover stories on that. I just let them cover those stories. I am
Wizards
the
is
internet
terrible.
Hippie. Oh yeah, they are. I am the internet hippie. I am if this was the 60s, I would be a real hippie. Make love, not war. You know. Yeah.
Well, until they come to your doorstep, then you want to make war.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, have you heard the word? And it's like, okay, that's it. I'm coming to my door naked.
I'm going to answer the door with a hockey mask and machete, and that's it. What, you were expecting pants? Pants weren't in that deal.
Oh, geez.
Oh, boy. All right. Fun times.
Yes.
Well, we talked about some good games. Star Trek being the biggest thing. I got to say it again. Happy birthday to Star Trek.
Yes.
It is nowadays it's rare to see a TV series that have a 57-year long run. Even though it's got many spinoff series and stuff like that, it's still, and you know what, the one thing that nobody talked about today, the animated series, and I believe it came out in 70.
Oh God. Oh God. I remember that from being a kid. My dad watched it. I hated it. I don't know why.
I will say, it added so much more of the species that they couldn't add into the live action. So, it added to the lore. But I think there was something about it. I don't know. It just didn't catch my eye at first. My dad was trying to show me it, and I was like, yeah, I like the live action better. Now, I actually ended up... So, one year, I went to the store, and this is going to sound much like how I came across all my tabletop books, and it was pretty much this. It was actually the same year, And I'm sitting with money in my bank account still after spending all that money. And I go, oh my God, for $1,000, I can get every piece of Star Trek episode from Enterprise to Voyager, not including the new stuff. And sure enough, I dropped $1,000 on the DVDs.
Nice. Nice.
I'm like, yeah, pissed off my ex-wife all to hell. She's looking at me and it's like, you didn't think we could have used that for something else? You know, I need a dress. And I'm like...
And I'm pretty sure that your current girlfriend wouldn't mind too much, unless that money was needed for something else.
You got a closet full of dresses you don't wear.
Hey, I'm not Norman Bates. Now, come on.
My wife always said, if you buy that book, I'm expecting to see it in the game in the next month. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Because she was one of my players and she married me, and it's like, fuck, she's been playing, it's like the same world since 1983, because she's like, nope, we're not switching worlds. I don't want to play in Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms blows.
And right now, the original Star Trek Complete series is $50 on Blu-ray.
Damn.
Nice. Already got it. I ended up buying the original, the animated. As long as the bills are paid, he's good. Yeah. I make sure the bills get paid. I bought the original series, the animated series, the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. I also have the 10 movies collection that I got the exact same time, and the first season of Discovery. Just because it was there, it was Star Trek, I wanted it, it happened. You know, it happened, and everyone's like, you know what, that show sucks, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm gonna give it a try. Gave it a try, saw it sucked, was not mad that I was not upset at all that I spent that money for it, because that was the cheapest thing I bought, aside from the other complete series collections that I bought. So,
did you ever get that gaming mat I showed you?
The what?
The Star Trek gaming mat or desk mat I showed you?
No, I never got that yet. Never got that yet. I was too busy getting a VTT, so that way we could start putting miniatures on a game board, and you guys can move stuff around whenever I have you guys for my games, which you've never really played in any of my games. You did do one, which was a horror themed, and you guys were taking on Jason Voorhees. That was fun. Other than the fact that
no, I did more than just one. I did that one and also the Evil Dead one.
Oh, that's right. And I did write a fan-based mechanic for that, and then that's when you bought me that book too. And then I'm like, okay, we're going back to this.
Yeah, you made your characters to be the ash between us in our game, and I ended up being the one that lived.
Yep.
I'm running Chaos Earth. I'm running Chaos Earth, and my players are eagerly awaiting Sunday because they've got their shit together and they've got a plan. Because if you've ever read any of Chaos Earth, it goes into the first, week to 2 weeks in the supposedly before the game begins. Their characters were generated and they were playing them before the apocalypse went off.
Oh wow!
So they're on like day 5 or 6 of the apocalypse. Yellowstone and Long Valley super volcanoes have gone off. They've been attacked by monsters. They were in a skyscraper that fell against another one. They had to run through the subways.
Yeah,
one of their characters. Yeah, it's crazy.
I can't say I've ever ran in Chaos Earth. Most of the games I do run are like fantasy worlds that I kind of make up. I haven't ran in any monetized fantasy worlds such as Forgotten Realms. I didn't do Kryn yet from Dragonlance, and I didn't do Ravenloft. I wish I did do Ravenloft because I'm a big Castlevania fan, and I definitely love vampires and zombies and werewolves, and that's all in Ravenloft. I do know about that.
If you want some advice, don't use the Die 20 Ravenloft system. Okay, those guys, oh god, they were fucking terrible. Don't use the 5e. Go all the way back to AD&D first and second edition, and run it with those rules, because the characters don't have as much power and as much abilities as they do in 3.0, 3.5, 5e. And the biggest thing about Ravenloft back then is half of the book talks about the alteration to the character's abilities.
Right.
Detect evil does not work in Ravenloft.
Oof.
No, because there is no because there I believe in Ravenloft there is no fine line of good and evil.
No, everything's evil.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm gonna use detect evil. Oh, it's everything. It's this entire realm. This is paralyzing me.
Yeah,
Because I
and
remember if you
read
do
the
if you detected evil or fear or something like that, it was overwhelming evil.
yeah. And the big thing, the other mistake made is everybody wanted to go for the Dark Lords and make adventures for the Dark Lords. And some of the best adventures I ran, the Dark Lords were nowhere near there. You really got to watch your power creep.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to run it, if you want to, because number one, first and second edition have much lower hit point values
Right.
and much less abilities, much less spell abilities, much less supernatural abilities. And so they've got to be careful. And the other thing to
So
remember is these are medieval French peasants.
so I already experienced 5e Van Richen's 5e Ravenloft. I didn't run it. A friend of mine ran it for me. Ironcaster. And I gotta say, I had some issues with it. Like, I know one day we were doing a battle and it took like 4 hours to do the battle, and that was an entire session. I'm like, oh, I didn't do much role playing.
Shit, second edition. If your battle lasts longer than 15 minutes in first or second edition, either more people have joined the fight and it's been one long fight, or half the party is down and dead.
Yep, yep. I will definitely have to look into that. I will definitely have to look into that.
I mean,
So,
the good thing is you can pick up copies. I think it's a drive through RPG prints out will print you copies
oh,
of
nice.
everything.
Okay. I go through Drive Through RPG for a lot of my stuff too. I also go to the main manufacturer's website on some things, but not everything. But I
Yeah,
do also do Drive Through RPG for some things too, but not everything as well. I go through many sites, so I will definitely check that out for the first edition stuff. So most
yeah. That's
definitely.
the two modules. If you want to start with either Touch of Death or it's not Night of the Walking Dead, but it's like that. It's got a zombie on the cover. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's basically Night of the Walking Dead, and it's pretty good for an introductory.
Oh, okay. It has 3 zombies on it, if I believe. One blown up, one behind that one, and then one in the
Yes,
background rising from the grave. Yep, I seen that one. I've seen that one before. Uh, and I believe that was a first level adventure because most Castlevania. Sorry, getting it mixed up because it's like Castlevania. Most Ravenloft settings are like level 5 and higher, if I'm not mistaken.
you can do the low level stuff, but you really got your DM really has to be sharp because I have seen. I think it was level 6 characters got jumped by 3 ghouls in a swamp, and I ended up with a TPK. I was like, "Fuck,"
Yep, yep, yep. Definitely,
because they
definitely.
came up out of the water, and the first attack hit the fighter, and he blew his save and fell over in the water.
Oh
It was like,
wow.
"Oops." I was like, "Why are you all dead?" And they're all like, "Because you were rolling natural 20s."
Yep, there.
Yeah.
That does it. That does it. Yeah, right now I only have 2 players for my Castle and Crusades game, which is like basically, it's a retro clone, kind of like I don't want to say a retro clone because it's like the system that is called the Siege Engine, which is made by Stephen Chenault and Graves, I believe it is. No, Grays, Stephen Chenault and Gray. Um, but it was basically kind of modeled from first or second edition D&D. It was back. It came out back around 2008, back when third edition was big, and they were reaching into fourth edition. So yeah, uh, killing characters is actually fairly easy, and I have to be careful with that when running that system. Um, right now, I got 2 players that show up every Friday, every other Friday for a game. Tonight I couldn't do it because I had unexpected guests, sadly, in real
Yeah.
life, sadly.
Didn't
So
you?
we would have been doing
Didn't,
that, but then we would never have done this stream, so we would have never met you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
you
First,
kill off your first team with who kept on arguing amongst each other because they were dwarves and a goblin?
So we had a guy named PJ Maybe. We had a guy named Colin, my friend Toby, and Witch King. Witch King and PJ Maybe were both playing dwarves. One was a dwarf cleric. One was a dwarf fighter. Then we had an elf rogue, who is now an elf rogue archer. And PJ's character is called Rubble, and he did not like Tobey's character, who was a full-blooded orc. He was an orc fighter, and he was trying to kill the orc in his sleep. And it did not. And the first game did not work out well at all. And the second game even ended up didn't end up as bad, but it was terrible because in the end, the player had to leave the table. For reasons I won't claim on here, he had to leave the table for a moment because he went off and had actually advanced his career a little bit. So he's coming back to the table. Thank goodness. He's not sure how everyone's going to feel about his character being the orc because he's like, my character wasn't on good terms. Plus, so we were playing in a scenario where they were going through a tornado, and the tornado wiped out the carriage and the 2 horses from his poor halfling families that were farmers, and they really needed that buggy and those 2 horses back, and I killed them.
Huh.
And he was like, "Really? I hate you, table." And he's like, "I hate you."
Flashbacks to Never-Ending Story.
Oh God,
I know.
I still remember running a game. It was in my homebrew. I've been running my same homebrew for decades, and the party was against the wall, and the wizard cut loose with a fireball. And first and second edition are bad enough where a wizard can kill himself with his own fireball, even if he's at max hit points.
I know. Oh man.
He dropped the last of the bad guys, but that was the end of him.
I had
Well done.
it's funny. We had a power play of like a bunch of fighters. And it was 4 of them. One was a wizard. One was there was 2 wizards, a fighter, and a rogue, and they couldn't touch this one wizard. And all this wizard did was cast a spell called Vermin. And they basically screwed the pooch when they decided to say, "We'll give it a minute. We'll just kill the spiders around them." And they kept all hitting misses. By that time, I was like, you know what? We got to keep this going. So you guys look at the bad guy, and the bad guy's already cocooned with a shield of cocoon. And they're like, we're going to set it on fire. And they still didn't get the bad guy. And I'm like, you guys are sitting here much tougher than this wizard, and you couldn't even kill a bunch of spiders. Wow, okay. They all kept running natural ones.
Oh, geez.
That's a way to ruin a game.
Yeah, it's some nights the dice are just but my wife found out years ago that I've got this weird luck. If I'm rolling really good at the beginning of the fight, she just tells everybody, all we have to do is hang in there, his dice will turn against him, and they do. Oh. But if I'm rolling really crappy at the beginning of the combat, she's like, we have to put these guys down fast because the natural 20s are on the way.
Nice. So your wife plays too?
Oh yeah, my wife's been playing she's been playing in my game since 1991, before we even got married.
Oh, that's when I was born.
Yeah, we've tried Forgotten Realms, and she's like, I hate this. Every world we try, she's like, I hate this world. I hate this world so much.
So why did she hate it?
He's been playing it. My world, I designed my world in the mid '80s, and I've done a lot of work on it. I mean, most of it's on paper. Everything from the money to and there's been wars and major NPCs, and somebody dropped out of the campaign, which has happened plenty of times in 40 years. I've always taken their PC and put them as an NPC, usually in some place really good. So the whole thing has lived and grown over the years. There's been massive wars. There's been 2 big cataclysms. One was when the gods went toe to toe, and
oh wow,
lovely.
The last one was when basically the things from Color Out of Space and Call of Cthulhu went rampant in the world, and they had to stop them. They barely managed to do that. They barely managed to do it. They lost most of the characters. But she's so familiar with the world that she knows all of the lore. She knows who's who and who's where, and she knows what the money's like. And so when she plays these other ones, and she'll ask me questions like, so I'll pick up a coin. What's on the coin? And I got to look through a ton of books. And she's like, ugh. And then that's usually there's no information, because in the one I've got, she's introduced players good enough where let's say somebody murdered somebody, ran off through the snow. the first thing she teaches other players is to go, what's the tread like on the boot marks? Because the Von Lon Empire sells surplus Legion boots very cheaply for like a copper piece a pair. And
Oh, wow.
so, and then the Red City sells boots. Basically all they sell military surplus after the wars to help recoup their losses. And it'll be like this guy's wearing Black Orchid Kingdom boots, and she's like, we're gonna be able to find him easy because those boots are very rare out here, and he is not a local. And she'll teach the players this stuff. Like, look at you see an enemy fighter, and she teaches the players to say, what's he carrying, what kind of weapons, what kind of armor is he wearing, how old does it look, what's its colors, and then what's its fighting style. And at first it takes a little bit for the players to get in it. Once they get into it, they feel like they're part of a larger world. And you know how people come up with ideas, they come up with especially in 3.0, they come up with a way to break the game.
Yeah.
Well, what I would do is I would have it where the people who survived meeting that character would figure out how it was done, and then go to a big city and open up a dojo and start training other people in this.
Oh, wow.
Which infuriates those players.
Nice.
But she likes it because it's not the big guys. You know how you're like, well, why doesn't Elminster solve the problems, or why doesn't this person solve the problems?
Yeah.
And it doesn't really. And in mine, it's, well, why doesn't the Black Orchid solve the problems? He's 5,000 years old and nobody can stand against him. He's a living demigod. Well, as soon as he starts moving, because he's the leader of a nation, all the other nations mobilize their armies. So he knows, if I get off my throne to fix this, it doesn't matter that it's a world-ending threat, because other countries have said, oh, there's a world-ending threat. Please let me march my army through your territory, and then use it for bases to attack. He knows he has to sit on his throne. He can't do anything, but he can finance adventurers to handle it.
Right. Okay, shit.
So
Andy.
he feels like it's more realistic. Plus, when I was in college, I took classes on how civilizations came to be. Like, proximity to river and resources are your number one reason your ancient cities are where they are.
And so you have Mesopotamia, you have the Yellow River Valley, you have the Nile River Valley, and you have the short-lived Mississippi River Valley civilization.
Yes. And when after the cataclysm of the Second Lich King War, I rebuilt the maps so that it all makes sense. And like a little known fact, did you know that if the gold is far enough away and too hard to get, it's actually not worth a kingdom to go get it? You'll actually lose money. You'll actually lose money on solid gold.
Yeah. Yeah, there were. I believe that was actually a discussion among two of my players, because we are what you call in chapter. Like, I made this world up of Paramore about almost a year ago. Made it up in September, October last year, but we didn't start playing in the game until December. So we've actually been wow. I think it was like December 15th. I know it was in December, sometime that month, maybe mid-November, which means I've been playing in my world for almost a year already.
Yeah, roughly it was probably roughly around November that you started doing your stuff, because I remember starting to listen to your videos around that time.
Yeah, because I streamed it immediately. I did a straight to stream, and I'm actually gonna get my facts straight here in just a hot second. So, and if you did subscribe to my channel, I do appreciate that, Waltz. Thank you so much.
I mean, that was also around the time that you and I were talking about one of your campaigns that you're actually on right now.
Yep. Okay, so the first session was 8 months ago. And I only say that too, Raltz, because I did pick up another subscriber during this stream, so I didn't know if it was you, so I wanted to say thank you at the time.
I should probably hit it.
Okay.
Let's see. Ding. There we go.
Yep. Yeah, I had 2 videos out talking about the realm of Paramore. One was talking about one region of the map, and then another region of the map, which is still in various developments. But we were just talking about like the basic structure of, okay, what kind of races are here, what's common, what's not common, stuff like that. And then the actual first session was 8 months ago. If I'm not mistaken, it was uploaded. I'm getting that. It just says 8 months ago, so probably December. Yeah, I'm looking at December. So
Okay.
Holy crap. It's been almost a year. It has been almost a year. And if anyone heard that music in the background, that was mine because I actually clicked on the video just to see if I could find the date for it. So we've been in there for 8 months, and now they're in this region that is controlled by a baroness. She's known as the Blood Baroness because as a kid growing up, I was fascinated with ancient history of some of the so-called warlords or barons and baroness of the royal family. So I was fascinated with the lore of Elizabeth Bathory, who was a real person, but
Yes, he was.
also had this mystique lore about her where everyone thought she was like killing people and that she was bathing in the blood of virgins that created like mass hysteria. Freaked a lot of people out. And so I made so they're in this region that is actually controlled by someone. She's called, what did I call her?
Blood.
She's the Blood Countess, but her name's not Elizabeth Bathory. I changed her name, Scarlet
No,
something.
you changed her to a a baroness, not a countess.
Right, okay, yeah, my bad. But I'm just trying to come up with the freaking name. Like, what did I name her? Hang on, I'm gonna look it up real quick. And her soldiers are actually named after Elizabeth Bathory. They're known as the Blood Soldiers of Bathory, and her name is, oh, for crying out loud! I have so much in this book. I need to start like bookmarking this.
Yeah, something like Scarlet or something like that.
Uh-huh. Yep, Lady Scarlet is what they called her. Yeah. Her name is Scarlet. She doesn't have a last name. So she ended up killing her own husband, who was the baron and ruler of the land, because she felt she was... So what had happened was 1,500 years before these events happened, the original princess of the area was actually mysteriously disappeared. Nobody knows whatever happened to her. So there was this bit where there was like, okay, there's no ruler. So the barons and the lords, who were all male, fought over pieces of the land, and kind of like it wasn't really much of a fight. It was basically more of a fight of like kind of think of it like a Cold War standard, a fight of who had more resources. And in the end, she ended up killing her own husband, giving the name Scarlet. And she then rallied female soldiers, like her generals are all women, and she actually turned the men into second-rate citizens, rising herself into power. All the men in this country have a certain time that they have to be in, and they can't be accompanied without a woman around. Women have a bit more freedom, but she's still kind of like evil, so she doesn't care for them. She's just running a country, but she doesn't want it run by men. So
Those are always fun.
What's up?
So basically, in basic translations, a woman scorned by her husband now made it into a matriarch society.
Yep. And so my players don't like it. They're like, we don't like this place because they're both males. They ended up getting locked into a bar for a while, and they said, no, if you go out there, you'll die. Because for a man to be caught, regardless of if they're elf, dwarf, or human, for a male of any species to be caught outside is automatically death.
Yeah, I did it. I did it with one of the nations. If a male is found uncollared or off their leash, they immediately become property of the state.
Oh wow!
And so we were playing, and my wife tells one of the players, "Hey, we're gonna have to put a collar on the two males because otherwise, in this kingdom, because my wife always plays somebody who's very cosmopolitan. That way, she can fill people in. She's she always drops a couple of skill points in basically in geopolitics. It would be the modern equivalent, so that she is in character can say, we got to put leashes on these guys, because trust me, there is nothing more that the kingdom would love than to snatch up a high level wizard and a high level fighter. because
yeah.
they will be auctioned off to high-end nobles, and we'd have to go to the auction, and we don't have that kind of money because these nobles are the kind of nobles that own the color blue.
Oh wow, wow.
And the players actually liked it because it was really, really different.
Yeah.
Because and the women would own these farms and they'd buy all these men to work the farms. Because me and my wife are both former farmers, and she knows that when it comes to using a plow, because you learn how to use a plow in 4-H, you need men to do that. You need men to do the farm. Otherwise, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, men and oxmen. And the kingdom will be happy to pick up anybody, any male, any well-fed male, and put him to work in industry or put him to work in the fields. And one of the players was like, well, what led to this? And she goes, well, look around. Look at how many women there are. And they noticed that for every 20 or 30 men, there was one woman.
Oh, wow.
Their birth rate is horribly skewed.
That sounds awfully a lot like the Krogan in Mass Effect.
Yeah. And I came up with that in the 80s because I thought it was kind of cool that they've got a bad birth rate, because the bad birth rate made it so everything had to be completely fixed. Like,
it's interesting that it went in that direction, because in like other situations, it would have actually gone in the opposite direction, where the women would be sheltered, would be put in under heavy guard by the men. By men of great power in order to preserve them from other men and keep them for themselves.
Except for one small thing, and this is where we get into a magical world. In this kingdom's bloodline, basically their genetics, to use modern terms, the only people that are sorcerers or wizards are female.
There's a tilting scale.
There's the tilt.
Somewhat similar to the Wheel of Time.
Yeah. And when I read that, I was so mad. I was like, what? Yeah, I read the Wheel of Time. I was like, what? How dare they? But players like that kind of stuff because, well, why don't they bring in women from other countries? Well, they do. The problem is this country's gods don't allow men to have magic. Well, don't have men with magic, because they make sure that the men are strong farmers and warriors. Now, nobody's going to go into the Red City lands and start any shit, because the men who live there are like 7 feet tall, and if you were to roll a character there, it would be basically 3d6 plus in die 20 modern. Well, in die 20 terms, it'd be 3d6 plus 4, minimum of 16 for strength, because these guys are massive. And all of them, every one of them has done 4 years in the Red City Legion.
Oh, wow.
So the guys out there plowing the land, they're going to come out there and kill everyone.
Tell me, when did they all descend from Nephilim?
Yeah. Well, it's been a breeding thing. It's been a breeding thing, and there was some angelic, and there's powerful bloodlines and stuff like that. It's really complicated.
Oh, wow.
But the Red City has the big thing of their ancestors were the first ones to come up with a hieroglyphic alphabet. Well, hieroglyphic writing.
Oh, so basically, what would happen if the Sumerian city-states continued on?
Yes, and add actual magic. That's like you add do the Egyptians, but then make it so they really are demigods, and the priesthood really does have all these powers, and that all that all this stuff is real, because that's back in the 80s there wasn't really much, there wasn't all these books, there wasn't all these helper things for role-playing games. I had to base it off of I worked with history and from stuff I could get at the public library. So I was like, well, what if this was real? What if Thor really did go around drinking with the Nordics?
Yeah.
And how big? That's the reason why the lands of the Endless Night, their men are massive and their women are all tall and lovely, because their gods were with them up until the God War.
Oh, wow.
And that makes invading a country a whole new ball game.
So I do got to ask, because you talk about the God War, and from my understanding of how you explained it, the God War didn't happen right away. Like you had the early days of
No.
this war, and then you eventually led into the God War. So did you ever create a god that you killed off?
The majority of the pantheon went down.
Oh,
Wow.
The only ones left, and after the God War, the heroes' tasks were to find people that who had been born who could accept the energy and the divine essence of the dead gods.
Oh wow.
So everybody
so
says
basically, the physical forms of the gods died, but their energy was still out there, and they need to be
right.
contained.
The divine energy pools were still there, so you could still get level 0 through 3 spells, but anything more, forget it. And that also meant the gates were weakening for those who dwell below, so it was urgent. Everybody goes, oh, well, what can your 20th level characters do? Well, they can have to cross multiple continents and find one person in 6 different worlds. And I think it's 6 different worlds, 33 continents. You have to find one person who embodies this god that wasn't even born in that kingdom. And that was like 2 years. And they had a blast because, oh, well, we have to resurrect Tiamat. Great. We have to resurrect the five-headed dragon. And it turned out to be, they were looking at dragons, turned out to be a kobold.
It's always in the least unexpected places.
Yes.
That is definitely an awesome twist.
What?
So
Yes.
Yeah.
My daughter yelled out, the kobold will ride that to the end of time.
I bet the dragons are not excited and not happy about that.
Oh,
the dragons were happy because the majority of the dragons were dead, and without the god to open the gates, they can't have. There's no souls coming out of the heavens, so there's nobody being born.
Oh wow!
So they didn't care as long as the eggs started singing again. That's all that mattered.
So they were desperate. They were like, okay, I may not approve of the fact it's a kobold when we're dragons, but we're gonna accept it because now we're being born again. There we go.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense because in desperation, you wouldn't really give a shit. I mean, you're on the face of extinction. Your species is facing extinction. You have no kids.
Yeah, you've got no kids. The eggs aren't singing anymore. You're not getting wisdom. You can't go to the dragon graveyard and get wisdom from the ancestors. It totally screwed everything up, so they had to do this. And you had an evil paladin with the group who was like, "Look, this has to be done. I have to help bring back good gods. You have to bring back dead gods. You need me to go with you because there are things you cannot face, but I can." And it led to really good interactions.
Okay. I was only curious about that because in my world of Paramore, I did create some of my own deities. And I was, going, like, I remember when I was playing Pathfinder 1E, one of the gods in Pathfinder 1E was considered a dead god at some point, during when they were releasing modules and adventure paths. Eventually, in one of those adventure paths, it was the same world, but they were considered a dead god at that point, and that their clerics had no more power in the world. Therefore, they quit worshiping her because she was not answering any of their prayers. And of course, in the other realms, it was because she was dead. She was eventually killed off. But then I think that lore has gotten rewritten. I do remember seeing her as a dead god because I do have some of the. I used to have some of the original books where it stated that, but I don't have them now. So, which sucks. But I was, wondering about that because I was, I'm trying to let my world develop on its own, as well as coming up with ideas of how I develop it, as well as my players affecting it as well. So
players are great. Players are absolutely great for helping develop stuff. I mean, players are amazing. I've got a couple kingdoms that were developed because we got to high level play, and in first and second edition, you attracted massive amounts of troops at like 10th level.
Oh yeah,
and they established kingdoms, and there's these kingdoms. Some of these kingdoms are still around because they managed to make it through the wars, and they were originally just a player's attracted henchmen.
So they evolved it into something even more. I had one player that he made up his character name as Ramir Bronzehammer, he made up a backstory of where he was a noble dwarf from a noble family, and now we're actually developing his. We developed his family's name and whatnot. His family's actually on like if you're on the head of that family, you're sitting on the Council of Kings. So his like his father or his grandfather is on the Council of Kings right now. And he's like one of the first clerics. His family basically made money from mining and construction, and was actually part of the construction of the dwarven home in the world. So they were always like at the head of everything. They're at the head of every ward. They're at the head of every construction project. They're the head of every mining project. They made it a point to make themselves big. So yeah, and then they develop into that. That's when they started calling themselves the Bronze Hammers, because they were at the head of everything and they were pulling in so much money. They eventually became rich dwarven nobles, and but he was the only one, because at this point it didn't make a sense for him to be a dwarf cleric as much as a dwarf fighter, but he really wanted to play a cleric, so he was the oddball out. He did not have any prestige with his clan or his family's name. So he ended up having he wants to gain prestige with them because he now has prestige with his temple. And when you gain in Castle Crusades, when you gain prestige, it's like gaining reputation. So when you gain a level of reputation, you become you get a title and you get benefits with that title. You don't always get bonuses or money and stuff like that, but you do get access to supplies and stuff. So for him, he's a cleric of the god of Morg. We call him Morg.
Right. What's he do?
He's the dwarven god of creation. Now, we don't have a human god of creation. Ooh. He's the god of creation. He is the head of all gods, both good and evil. He's lawfully good. And the thing is, everybody, human, elf, everyone has acknowledged his writings and teachings as, okay, the god of creation is a dwarf. So, in some sense, they may develop to be the true ancestral race of, like, an elder race of the planet, because the god of creation is a dwarf. So, and every race acknowledges that. Of course, now we do have human gods and elven gods, but they are gods of difference. And then the evil gods are all demons. Demons or devils or hellions of some sort. And tonight, they were supposed to be a... in this little area is called the Woods of Crichton, which Crichton is a lawfully evil god. He has like spikes coming out of his skin. Like, imagine, I think it's Night of the Living Dead with the girlfriend, where the girlfriend was killed in an accident and the guy got a hold of serum that was supposed to resurrect her.
Number 3.
Yep.
That was Return of the Living Dead. That was Return of the Living Dead.
Yep. And I basically modeled him after her. But I made it a guy, and he is wrapped in chain spikes. He fights with a chain with spikes coming out of it, which I took that from, like, that weapon was actually a weapon in Pathfinder, so it was easy to come up with mechanics for it, because I don't have to play Pathfinder to do it. I just converted it to the Castle Crusade setting. But I'm like, yeah, he's got spikes coming out. He's just a shredded god. He hates everything. So they're in these woods that are named after him, and he's like, well, I'm the god of Morg. I'm lawfully good, so I want to go figure out why those woods are named after it. And I had plans to where they were actually going to have a fight with not the god himself, but his herald.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah. So
heralds and avatars.
Yep. And it was going to be his herald, and I was going to see how well they did, and I just love on how I made them, and yeah. So can't say much more.
One thing when you're designing, if you're looking for a way to really shake up economies and really shake kingdoms up, do a Dutch tulip craze.
Okay.
You can make it historical.
Oh.
Okay. There was a crypto virus that made it so that tulips had very beautiful patterns on them because of the virus. And everybody wanted these tulips, but they only grew in a certain region. Mm-hmm. And nobles were investing millions of dollars just to buy some of them for financing. And when the market collapsed, it actually damn near took down the Dutch government.
Oh,
And that was in, I think like the 1600s. Look up the Dutch tulip craze.
I'll do it right now.
And people are extremely wasteful. Don't forget, if you really want to freak your players out, have it so they see like there's pineapples sitting on the stoops of noble residences, just sitting there rotting away. And it's because those nobles are so rich, they can bring a pineapple in. They can pay a ship to go get a pineapple, bring it in, and then just sit it on the steps. That was a literal thing people used to do.
Oh, wow.
You know, you want to know how you get rid of all the money? Have the nobles use it? Nobles used to use it in the stupidest ways.
Well, I mean, have you ever? God, I'm trying to remember. There was. It's still affecting Britain to this day, but when the House of Hanover took over Britain,
And built
the king, the one of the members of Parliament set up this whole shipping system that completely almost brought the entire British Empire to its knees. And I mean, the British are still paying for it today, to this day.
Isn't that the West Indies? Was that the West?
Give me a second, I'll look it up. But the tulip mania is what it's called.
Yes,
was from 1634 to 1637.
Yeah, 3 years, and they fucked up all of Europe's economy.
Oh wow!
And also you have what's his face, the richest king ever to exist, the king of Mali, almost collapsed the world economy with how much gold he brought with him when he went on a pilgrimage to Mecca.
Because he was throwing it out there.
He traveled up to the Mediterranean and across the Mediterranean. He was just throwing bags of gold to everyone.
Yeah, he was just tossing gold out, and don't forget to have stupid stuff like that, and then you add magic, and people get even dumber.
I mean, this is just like you mentioned the tulip thing. It just kind of made me kind of think of something as like table. What if you had something very much similar to that, but instead the tulips being fragile and everything, they kind of are like as hard as your fingernail.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that they can actually be used as some kind of currency until something else happens that kind of causes it to go belly up.
Yeah, don't forget to have that stuff and add magic, and things go absolutely crazy. And don't forget guilds. I mean, too many DMs nowadays overlook guilds. Yeah, one of the more powerful guilds. Oh, go ahead. Your channel. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I already have guilds. I got those. I have to actually, now you're going to make me reread all my content I currently already created, because I think I have something. It's not tulips. It's mold. I have a type of mold in this world that only grows in one part of the world. And it's like, okay, I have to reread to see if I have that mold, because I think it's mold.
I also remember reading someplace where it talked about how some Europeans, I think it was in England at least. Like, it was a sign of wealth in some European country was to have a pineapple.
Yeah, just sitting on the porch, decaying. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, it was crazy. The Lamplighters Guild will be an extremely powerful one, but they'll also be allied with the Wizards Guild because of because in some systems the light spell when cast is permanent. They can make it permanent, but then they can cast another. Now, some of them limit it so you can only have one light spell on at a time. But some genius is going to create a spell that makes it's basically second edition continual light, where you can have multiples up, and they will hire people who weren't able to get more than like the third or fourth year of the Mage Academy, who can cast light spells, and their whole job is to go out there and cast light on the lampposts.
Okay, so it's called the what almost kind of destroyed the British Empire was the South Sea Bubble.
Oh.
The South Sea Company, or the governor and company of the merchants of Great Britain trading to the South Sea and other parts of America. So basically, this kind of started up right after the American Civil War, or not the American Civil War, but right around the time of the I'm trying to think. It started in 1711, but the company went defunct in 1853.
They went defunct right before the Civil War, right about the time that the slavery got outlawed.
Yeah, and I remember they. Oh god, I'm trying to remember. Even the kings, the Hanover kings got involved in managing it and all. And like what they would do is they would like give you pretend shares in this company, and they would take that money from the shares and they would funnel back into the company.
That sounds like it
Wow.
got crazy real fast.
It did get crazy real fast, and when everything was found out, the British monarchy just assumed all debt, or it was something, I can't remember what it was, something like of that nature, and they're, like I said, they still were paying they're still somewhat paying to this day, or they're just finishing up paying to it today, or to this day.
Damn. Don't forget to add monsters into more than just the dungeons and everything. I don't know if Castles and Crusades has green slime.
I
It's an
believe
old first
they do.
edition thing.
Yeah, I believe they do.
Because it eats everything but glass. Number one, the criminal organizations love it because what better way to get rid of a body? You just huck it in there. And because its waste product is clean water.
Wow.
So big city, and you can burn it away. So big cities will have huge pools of green slime in stone vats that the sewers run into, and they'll just send people down there with like a wand of fireballs, or a wizard who can cast a fireball, has a scroll of fireball, to burn off the excess every couple months. And that's how they deal with their sewage, because why not? All the sewage goes in, and what comes out is clean water.
Oh wow! Oh, you know, I am gonna have to look into that because I didn't think about that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I hope you're gonna stay on my Discord server because whenever I can pick your brain, I'm definitely gonna be contacting you.
That's like gelatinous cubes. Gelatinous cubes. Just add food color, and then have it down in the sewers. Add food color.
Yeah, I used the gelatinous cube on one of my adventures recently, but yeah, that's a good idea. And that was actually a dungeon.
Yeah.
But
I keep
all right, use it in cities too. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Because anybody that says that human beings wouldn't figure out some way to monetize a monster have never met a human.
Clearly.
Think about what they did in Pacific Rim. They were like, anytime that a monster died, they would have people went out there to carve up the bodies and then turn them around to sell them as souvenirs or as medicinal cures.
Yep, they did. I remember that.
And magic is, and a lot of people don't realize just what a big deal magical light is. Number one, it's light without heat. It doesn't create a fire hazard. So if only one wizard can cast a light spell, anybody running a sweatshop or anybody running a manufacturing, like say blacksmithing, textile, would be worth the money to pay a mage to sit around and drink beer and recast the light spell every couple hours, because it keeps the factory floor running at night.
Yep, you're right. Holy shit.
And with grain mills, you don't have to worry about explosions.
You basically you basically just taught me how to make an industrial, go from medieval to industrial world overnight.
It's not quite industrial, because you have the thing of, well, why should we create something to do this when magic does it easier, and I can hire some mage school dropout.
I mean, that's the whole reason why the Industrial Revolution never took place in Roman times, because they had primitive steam technology in the Roman period. It was because they had slave forces. So why would they need to create a machine to make things easier if they already have a slave army to do it for them?
Yeah.
And that's compare that to when the Industrial Revolution actually took place, because of the lacking in manpower.
Yeah. Manpower is cheap and easy. Manpower is cheap and easy in the medieval world. It's cheaper than anything else.
Well, that's also because you had people versus in medieval time you had the feudal system, so the people were tied to the land, versus in around the time of the Industrial Revolution, people were allowed to go wherever they wanted. I mean, you have so many people migrating to the United States during that
Well,
time.
because every single place in Europe was owned by nobles, and you came to the U.S. and nobody owned shit. You could just get in a wagon and fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what my family did. They got there and bought a wagon and fucked off.
Wow.
They're like, see ya.
I mean, my mother's one of my mother's ancestors, their first job in the United States was helping to pump water. Their first dollar in the United States was helping to pump water off the paddle boat that ran aground when they were going up the Mississippi.
Nice. That's a day's wages. Uh, putting together a medieval world, putting together your own setting, if once you get comfortable with the rules, putting together your own setting is probably one of the most gratifying things you can do. And there's so much resources, and it's so much different than when I did it. When I did it, I had to go to the public library.
And also you mentioning about like the medieval time and with magic and everything, is that just made me also think of that movie from Disney, Onward.
I haven't seen Onward.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
a good movie.
So it's actually not a bad movie. It's actually probably one of Disney's last good movies, to me, in my opinion. But it's a world where magic has been abandoned because technology was just so easy to adapt versus trying to conjure up magic spells.
Yeah. Well, it's down there. You have to make a decision. Is magic easy and formulaic like third edition, or is it weird and mysterious like first and second? You have to really make your decisions. You know, is it formulaic like in 5e or a lot of other games, or is it weird and mysterious and dangerous like Harn, Rollmaster? All those.
Is magic going to be passive, or is it going to be something similar to like what it is in Lord of the Rings with Gandalf, or is it going to be something like Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Harry Potter.
I like it. So magic is very difficult. So in Harry Potter, it's easier, but in Jim Butcher, it's definitely harder. It takes up a lot. It takes up a lot of mental strength and physical strength from you, and it draws off of you very heavily. And if you don't have a refined expertise or knowledge of what you're doing, and you haven't practiced long enough, like one spell can zap you completely to the point you pass out just by casting one defensive type spell. So in the Dresden Files, which I'm a big Jim Butcher fan, I wasn't a big fan of the magic system, but actually I worked with a guy. He said, I'm a big fan of the magic system. I'm going to tell you why. Because it's not easy for him to cast Fireball. Where you play D&D, you cast Fireball. Okay, you used up one spell slot per day and stuff like that. But it's, it can be easy given, like you said, 3.5 edition rules, but harder in the earlier editions. And he said that's what he liked about it. It's more of a challenge. It's physical and mental stress. It's not just one thing. And magic is a living thing in the Dresden Files world. So so you can tap into it, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah. See, I added way back in second edition, because they changed some stuff and made magic a little easier. I added Arcane Burn because it was after the Lich King War. And basically, whenever you cast a spell, you had to make a saving throw, and if you didn't make your saving throw, the magic physically burned you when you were casting it, and you ran the risk of losing the spell or the spell slot. It added a few other roles. It was funny because when the internet came around, I talked about it. And I even put up scans of how I did it. And holy crap, did Wizard players acted like I shit in their bed.
See, there was something like that in a realm called Fartherall. What it was is Dead Gentlemen, which started off as like an internet thing, and they uploaded a bunch of their stuff to YouTube. They created movies called The Gamers, and so in their world it's called Fartherall. But they have to so when you cast a spell, your spell has to hit the target. If your spell misses, you have to roll a percentile to see how it missed. There's this thing called fizzling. It's possible that you failed the spell check to cast it, and if there is no spell check, you still got to roll the percentile to see if it fizzled, which means you didn't successfully cast a spell, and it backfired in your face. And when it backfires, it leaves behind residual crystals that can grow on your clothes. It can be very invasive and very dangerous. And it's like, I'm like, oh my god, I love that idea. And it's like, yeah, so they made it magic. Like, they're in a world full of magic, but it's not easy to do.
No. No, and you do that. You add it where Magic, has something like that, and some players will bitch, but the players that stick with it seem to really like it because the other thing you can add is if you want to take the time, you can adapt Drain from Shadowrun's first and second edition, where they've got to make a saving throw, basically Constitution based or willpower based, whichever one you want to do, and it does stun. And if you fail that save, you take stun damage.
Okay.
And players really seem to like that stuff because number one, it makes wizard battles a lot of fun because
You have to be extra careful or else.
Yeah, and plus I'm gonna burn him. I'm gonna push him till he burns, and it's just kind of fun because players really love. Players once they get used to something, a lot of times they really love it, and a lot of them can't imagine doing it without it. Because I had a friend of mine he moved away and he got a hold of me on the online, and he went and joined another 3.0 game, and he said it was so weird playing where he didn't have to make an arcane burn resistance roll, and it just felt like he could throw out spells all day. And he was like, it's so weird. He goes, but it also sucks because I can't push somebody until they accidentally lose control and burn themselves up.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, Roltz, I gotta say, it's really nice to meet you. You do have a lot of knowledge. I definitely want you to hang out on my server. We are approaching 2.5 hours here, and I usually like to keep my streams within that. So, and I have to take a break here for a moment anyway. So thank you for coming on. At the very least, I do appreciate it. It is really nice to meet you. So
yeah, it was nice to be on here.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I've seen you on Twitter before. Because I've definitely seen your name before. I think we.
I do a lot of shit posting. I do a lot of shit posting.
I think you also post stuff on Tabletop Gaming. That's why That's probably why you came across it, because that's all my stuff is mostly about. So, all right. Well, that's all that I'm going to have it for at this time. I'd like to let everyone know to thank you so much for tuning in. Waltz, thank you for coming onto the show and talking about gaming a little bit with a little bit of Star Trek. It was nice having you. Definitely got to get you back sometime. Chris, is there anything else you'd like to say before we go here?
Nothing really. You'll find Table and you'll find Table occasionally and myself over on 540 Studios, where we hang out with our friend Jace and talk about various other geek items besides tabletop.
Like the new science fiction space opera movie Rebel Moon, which I am looking forward to that.
Yes, I can already hear your boner growing as we speak.
Oh, for God's sake! Hey, you know what? I did see it. I did see it online where Zack Snyder said he wants a tabletop game of Rebel Moon, and it's like, yes, please. I'm sorry. I love aliens, so I love all that stuff. I love having anything else that's outside of the norm of just regular human society. So, all right. Well, I think that's everything at this time. I have nothing else, and like I said, I have to get going anyway. So, Roltz, thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it. Chris, thank you for joining me tonight as well. I appreciate you for being here, my friend, so much. Thank you, guys, everyone who's tuned in, for helping us celebrate the 57th anniversary of Star Trek. Originally, was not going to happen. This stream was not well put together. I will not lie, but it was also sporadic because my other game got canceled, and I'm like, I got to do a stream today. I only have so many days I can do a stream each month. I got to get one in today, so here it is. Best of the best, so, or at least the best that I could get. All right, well, here we go.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone have a great and wonderful night.
Everybody have a good night.